What actually pushed me into doing that journey full time, and actually leaving that 9 to 5 was that I reconnected with my high school sweetheart after,
Okay.
yeah, after 13 years. Um, and he had his two little ones, and I had mine, and they were very young at the time. They were three and
Okay.
both, like his set was 3 and 5, and my set was 3 and 5. But when we combined families and suddenly I had 4 kids, there was a
Mm.
lot to consider.
Welcome to Mindset Mastery Podcast, where we explore the intersections of motherhood and entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Julissa Edwards, and in each episode, we're diving into mindset, emotional regulation, and the real stories of mom entrepreneurs navigating both business and family life. Let's get into it. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Mindset Mastery with yours truly, Julissa Edwards. In this episode, I get to interview Sara. She is a multi-business entrepreneur, balancing dual careers in mental health and media arts. She's a clinical therapist. She owns a private practice and other ancillary businesses in the field. She has also been a writer for the past 2 decades, has 6 books published under her name, 3 ghost written titles, and she will be bringing to the market her newest book in December, which she did get to talk about in this episode, which I think is absolutely fantastic. Sara maintains many writing contracts, has thousands of articles available online, and is a 4-time award winning poet. Above all, she is a mother of 4. Yes, you heard that right. Juggling travel soccer and after school duties and clubs, school events, and also managing how to spend quality time with her family. It was an absolute pleasure interviewing Sara. She had so much wisdom to share. We spoke about the difference and the unknowingness that comes from building a business, from coming from the career of your choice, like therapist trying to build a private practice or so on and so forth, and what holds them back, not just in the field of therapy, but anyone looking to go into entrepreneurship. I think we spoke about so many great topics that it's really just going to be so good for you and our audience to hear. So without further ado, I hope you tap in. Sara, thank you for joining us. We are super excited and I can't wait to hear more about your story.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm excited to chat this morning.
So, Sara, you wear a lot of different hats: clinical therapist, writer, multi business entrepreneur, and mother of 4. Like, absolutely just goals, right? All this power, all this centeredness. How can you start by sharing how your journey evolved from the traditional 9 to 5 to the career that you have now in entrepreneurship?
Sure. So I feel like there's kind of a long answer to this and then like
Yeah.
a very short answer. So,
Okay.
in general, I come from an entrepreneurial family. So
Okay.
my grandpa started a business, my dad took over that business, and now my brother has it. He kind of
Mm,
like restarted it under a new company, but basically all along the same lines. And so I
okay.
feel like I just grew up with that kind of mindset that you can do anything you want to do, achieve anything that you want to. And so I've always kind of had a million jobs. I feel like I've had, the 9 to 5 job, and then I've always been off on my own doing writing and just doing a bunch of different things. Um, what actually pushed me into doing that journey full time, and actually leaving that 9 to 5 was that I reconnected with my high school sweetheart after,
Okay.
yeah, after 13 years. Um, and he had his two little ones, and I had mine, and they were very young at the time. They were three and
Okay.
both, like his set was 3 and 5, and my set was 3 and 5. And so, yeah, we had
Wow.
kids the
So
same
you guys
age.
have like twins.
I know, basically, yeah, it's so funny when I explain my family too. I'm always like, it's a blended family. We don't have twins because the youngest ones are the exact same age, and the
Mm.
older ones are 7 months apart.
That's so cool though, how that
Yeah,
worked out.
yeah. It's kind of, we feel like it's meant to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
But um, but when we combined families and suddenly I had 4 kids, there was a
Mm.
lot to consider. I
Hmm.
was working long hours at the time. Some days I was working more than 9 to 5. And like I said, I would come home and kind of do my own thing too. We also just the situation that we were in, we needed someone to take the kids to school, sometimes pick them up after school. And so I just kind of decided it's now or never, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I was terrified at first to take that plunge and go full time. But it ended up working out. And, it took a little while to kind of get in the flow. But that was what actually pushed me into it. So I feel like everything happens
Okay.
for a reason.
Mm-hmm. So the leap of faith that I mean, I can't even imagine going from 2 to 4 kids, having so many other human beings to consider, truly,
Mhm.
right? All schedules, all of that. And so when you said you took the leap of faith, that was in your entrepreneurial job, yeah?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
is it the is that the business that you run now?
So I've kind of expanded from there. What I did initially was focus a lot on writing, editing, and kind of everything in media arts. That was my
Okay.
background. I had worked for, at that point, I believe it was like 15 years in publishing and entertainment. And so,
Wow.
yeah, I had just started going back to school for counseling. That was something I did
Mm-hmm.
the previous year. But I,
Mm-hmm.
didn't have my degree in that yet. But nowadays, now that I do have my degree and I've been in the field for almost 4 years now, I'm focusing kind of more on the counseling side, but I also do a lot of writing too. So I combine the two. And I do
Mm.
have a book that I plan to publish next month.
Exciting. Okay.
Yeah, which combines
Please
like
give us the link. If you have anything, we'll put it in the show notes.
perfect. Yeah, definitely. I will. And so I do focus a lot of on writing still. And oftentimes, like I said, I can combine the two. So the book that's coming out next month has to do with a teenage boy with an eating disorder, but it's a
Okay.
fictional title. And so I have published fiction books, I've published self help books, kind of rolling that all into one, and also, rolling
Mm.
the counseling into the writing.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, yeah. So initially just media arts, and now both. Long story short.
Yeah, I love that because I already feel like it's going to be a great story, because you have so much experience in that field prior, and then now your addition of your newer education and having practice within the field. I think it's going to be such a good book for learning and probably storytelling, and also just a different perspective. You usually pair eating disorders with women, which we know that's not the case, or girls.
Right.
But
Mhm.
that's a really nice, I think it's going to be a great book. And even though we just met, I feel that it's going to be a really good story.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I want to draw attention to that, because that is kind of the stereotype that it only happens to women,
Mm-hmm.
and that is
Mm-hmm.
definitely not the case.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to draw attention to that fact too. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah. Okay, so what made you want to go into counseling after, I think you said 15 years of being in the media business?
Right, yeah. So it was a huge shift. Um, but a couple of things I would say. So I, enjoyed writing, enjoyed being in entertainment. It was really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Always in publishing. And I knew that I wanted to continue that journey, but I just kind of felt like something was missing in my life. I've always liked to help others. At the time, I was teaching kindergarten and first grade in my church and really involved. And volunteering at Ascension Hospital as a spiritual services volunteer. And I was doing
Mm.
things like that, but I kind of just wanted to broaden that a little bit more.
Okay.
Also, when I went through my divorce, so the personal side of things, when I went through my divorce, it was very difficult for the kids and I. And there was a lot of people that stepped in and helped us. And it was just incredible. I felt like God was really working in my life at that time. And I was getting
Mm.
all kinds of signs. And just, on like the worst day, something would happen. And so I felt like I just wanted to pay that forward and give back. And
Mm.
I stumbled upon getting a counseling degree. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. I feel like I'm going to
Mhm.
really enjoy this. And just on a whim, I filled out the application, got accepted into the school, and went from there.
Wow, beautiful. I love that. I love combining, I'm all about combining spirituality, mental health, and just overall well-being. I think it's so important. And for me, the two fields or the two different, yeah, the two fields, they really do overlap for me. I feel like you can't have a great physical, or great mental health without spiritual health. And
Yes.
depending on which way you look at it, I think, spirituality is something that sometimes can't be explained. It's just simply felt.
Right.
And
Hmm.
yeah, and I think that and mental health have so much overlap, even on a scientific lens, which I love. And so,
I
yeah,
agree. Mhm.
that's really, really interesting. So I'm happy that you followed your heart. So tell us what you're doing now. You have all this background and now you're in counseling. So what do you
Mhm.
do now in your business?
Okay. Where am I going to start? So I basically got my counseling degree. I was working for a private practice at the time. I had done my practicum and internship there. And then I was contracted through that practice for a few months after graduation. And I loved it. I knew that I loved private practice. I wanted to also branch out a little bit and do some community mental health work. I thought through
Okay.
that work, I would be serving a community that really needed it and really kind of putting
Mhm.
my own skills to the test. And so did the private practice thing. And in 2022, I opened my own private practice, but doing it very part-time at that time.
Okay.
Went back and started working in community mental health for a year and a half. And I was juggling both while still maintaining all of my writing contracts. So
Oh, wow.
the majority of my contracts that I have now, I've had since 2016, 17. So it's been quite a while.
Okay.
I've been working with the same clients. I've branched out a little bit since then. But for the most part, those were long-standing too. And I did all of that for a long time. In February of this year, I finally, yay, got my full license. And so I'd gotten all my
Congratulations.
hours in. Thank you. And then around May of this year, I decided to return full time to private practice. So
Okay.
I left the community mental health world, and I just started to have like all of these visions for what I could do with counseling and media arts together. I
Mm.
was on The Blacks last year, the reality TV
Yes.
show for
Yes.
entrepreneurial contestants. Yeah. And that also got the juices flowing, right? I
Okay.
hadn't at that time really considered expanding my practice. But after that experience, I left with so many notes and so many ideas, right? That it was just kind of like I was getting the itch to go full time private
Yeah.
practice and really do this thing. And that's what I did in May. So I started building up my private practice caseload full time in May. And I also decided to start a website that was for counselors who are preparing for addiction exams and the National Counselor exam. And
Okay.
I offer exam prep materials through that site. I
Wow.
also started a site for mentorship, and eventually it's going to be supervision. I
Okay.
just Michigan law. I can't be a supervisor until 2026, but I've completed all of the requirements for that, and so
Okay.
I kind of started a venture based on that. And right now, what I'm mainly focused on, which I'm super excited for, and I'm at the point finally that it's going to be probably about 4 to 6 weeks, is scaling my practice. So
Okay.
I really just kind of dived into what that would look like, creating this growth plan, getting all the pieces into place. And obviously, that takes a little bit of time. And now I'm at the point where I am completely ready to roll with it. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I'm so excited. So there's just a couple of little lingering things I need to take care of, and that's going to be the next step in this journey.
Okay. All right. So you are a woman of many hats and you have multiple passions and skill sets, which I think is
Oh, thank
amazing.
you. Mhm.
Yeah. And so, I love that so for those that don't know, in the counseling field, right, you have to go to grad school. I think, what is it that we complete 2,000 hours of supervision, right? And then we can get our
Yeah.
licensure.
Well,
I
I
can't,
think
it's been
Michigan,
like
it
10 years
was,
for me.
yeah, so exactly, but 3,000 hours, at least here,
3,000
I had
hours.
to do. Yeah. Yeah, so it's quite
Okay.
a bit. Yeah.
It is quite a bit. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I'm bringing that up just for people that aren't in the counseling field so that they know that. Um, uh, I bring that up because you were someone who decided to venture out and run her own clinic, if or private practice, if you may, even before getting that, which I think is grand. I bring that up because a lot of people, I've counseled a lot of people in the past 10 years of being a therapist. And then the
Right.
last 5 years of being a mindset coach, a lot of entrepreneurs or people that want to be entrepreneurs and just women and people in general, but
Mhm.
all for mindset shifts and things of that sort. What I see so much is that, and this is kind of like, this is like just straight data from my practice. Um, the more, sometimes, the more education somebody has, I've
Mhm.
seen that the more it stunts them from doing really courageous, scary things in the entrepreneurial field. And so, do you agree with that?
I totally agree with that. Well, I cannot say I don't love school. I love school.
I
I
love
plan to go
school.
back to
Yeah,
school too,
me too.
but I
Yes,
do feel like there's kind of like that scholarly mindset where we're stuck
yes,
in all of the research and the analysis paralysis,
yes,
right?
yes,
And then there's the
yes,
risk-taking side of things, and it's difficult to
yes.
kind of mesh those 2 together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, like I remember there was a time, maybe my first entrepreneurial program that I created in my coaching business. And I think I had like, I can't remember the numbers exactly, but it was a really big ego crush for me because I'm used to like getting on calls, being able to like connect with people and enroll them for the program that I was, hoping to enroll for. And I remember
Mhm.
doing this program and I was a therapist, or yeah, I was a therapist, and I was like, oh my God, I just found out about group coaching and online business and using our background to make it better. And I was like, I want to help all of my therapist colleagues, friends, family members. And so I had a lot of people interested in the program. And we had a good turnout, I think, after like the second or third round. But I remember talking to PhD candidates, doctors, master's level clinicians, and they all they wanted to do it so bad, but
Yeah.
ultimately they couldn't take that leap of faith. And
Yes.
so I learned a lot. Like I think my first successful round, we had like 8 or 10 members, and they were no one was in like nobody was in the mental health space, which I was like, womp womp. This is literally who
Oh,
I created it for.
yeah.
But it was okay. I learned so much.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a bunch of bachelor's or lower degrees level individuals who did really
Mhm.
well in their businesses, right?
Right.
And
Mhm.
so it's just data that I fell upon. There's so many factors to that, but I just know that when talking to people who, yes, have that scholarly mindset, it is really hard to take the leap of faith. So I'm really happy that we're talking about this. And I want to just ask, how was that for you? Do you think your past of being in another career
Mhm.
kind of gave you the to like just because get further ahead a little bit quicker and begin opening up your own practice before you even had all the accreditation? How was that mind process
Mhm.
for you?
So, I would say definitely, definitely. Like I said, I come from this entrepreneurial family, so I've seen it in action for many years. And when I was in college, I first went in as an English major, and then I decided I
Okay,
kind of wanted to broaden
that
that a
makes
little
sense.
bit. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and I mean, back in the day, 20 some years ago, I was lugging around 15 books around Michigan State's campus, and I was like, oh
Hmm.
well, maybe I'll change my degree and I have a hurting back by the end of this, but then I switched it to business and I loved everything
Mm,
about it. So much so that then I went back to school and got my MBA. So I
okay.
knew I wanted to do something with that. I always wanted to kind of, take on my own ventures and see how far I could take that. I am 99.9% sure if I did not have that background, I probably would have been stuck. And I do
Yeah.
hear that all the time too. I have a lot of friends in the field, a lot of obviously colleagues, coworkers, supervisors I've worked with, and they're all kind of stuck in that same boat. They're very, very excellent mental health providers. They
Yes.
just don't
Yes.
really have that business mindset, right?
Yeah.
They haven't focused on it. But I
Mm-hmm.
hear all the time, I really want to go into private practice. How did you do that? It's so
Mm-hmm.
risky. I enjoy my 9 to 5 paycheck, and all of
Yes.
that.
Yes.
But just having that background, I think, very much so pushed me in that direction.
So let's talk about the riskiness of it all, right? And I definitely understand, like, yeah, people are used to doing things a certain way. And so it's like, why would I change this? Why would I risk it? This is
Yeah.
my livelihood, this is my income,
Mhm.
And so did that fear come up for you at all?
It did a little bit, but I think too, because I wanted to get a little bit ahead of the game and open my practice while I still had a limited license and start doing it part-time so that
Mm-hmm.
I still had that 9 to 5 paycheck too, helped.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to build up the business, get all the kinks out of the way. Obviously not to the level that I want to do it now, but I was doing it part-time, doing all that stuff, the initial stuff. And so when I started to get all kinds of referrals, just because it had been in existence for a while, I was more motivated to do it. And I feel like it felt less risky. So, but of course,
Mm-hmm.
in the very beginning, when I'm trying to learn how to like get a business established and do all of this on my own,
Mm-hmm.
yes, very scary. And I will say I got stuck in analysis paralysis to take it to this level too for a long time,
I
just
mean,
terrified. So,
you've done so much. Yeah, I mean, I'm still fearful of things that I do in my business as well. I've been in it now for 5 years, but
mhm,
um, I always, you just talk about, the messy aligned action. You just have to go for it and you learn along the way, which I get is really hard for some people.
mhm,
What I want to talk more, I'm thinking about, like before I became a business owner, when I was a traditional counselor working for somebody else's private practice, I did community work too. I did everything and
mhm.
everything under the sun of counseling before I went into business. But I think what I want to share is that becoming a business owner is something completely different than being a counselor,
Right,
right? And so
right, exactly.
I think in any field, I think that's what people misinterpret. And I can speak from my own experience. When I was maybe like 2 or 3 years into the field. I was working for my first private practice, and we used to share space. It was a beautiful little like house kind of setup kind of thing. And
Oh,
half of
cool.
the house, it was really cool. Half of the house was for counseling, and the other half was for a chiropractor, a doctor that was also
Mhm.
taking up space there, chiropractor. And she was like, I don't know how many years you have to be a chiropractor, but she like had just graduated. So very, very young, like no more than 25. Like she was just super young,
Oh, super young.
super young, and I remember looking at her and being like, how the F is she running this practice? Like for me, chiropractic is something completely out of my field. Have no idea what it takes to become one, all the, schooling that she must have done to become a doctor, all the things. And then not only is she just graduating, she opened up her own practice and she has active clients coming in. And get this, she
Wow.
specialized in motherhood, in pregnancy. So she was
Oh,
helping moms readjust their backs and babies,
wow.
right? So I was like, this was
Right.
me before
I would
becoming
have
an
had the same reaction.
entrepreneur. And I was
Mhm.
like, what the hell? I'm like, how is it that this woman, like, I'm not gonna lie, this is just truthfully me speaking. I'm like, what makes her think that she can do this already? Right. And that's
Right.
ego, right? That's
Yeah.
projection of like me
Mhm.
feeling, how I don't know if I was jealous, probably a little bit, like kind of like, "Ah, like, how come she gets to do that?
Right.
Right. But I
Right.
also loved her as a person. She was bubbly and young and charismatic. So like I
Yeah.
couldn't hate her, but it was just like, how the F did you do this? You
Right.
know?
Right,
And
exactly.
so what now being a business owner myself, like those two things are two complete, like the mind and the eye and the guts and the passion to open up and run a business has
Mhm.
nothing to do with the skill set. Hey mamas, let me ask you this. Do you dream of starting your own business but feel overwhelmed by where to begin? You're not alone, and that's exactly why I created our free WhatsApp group, Balancing Business and Babies, a safe space for moms like you who are ready to take that first step towards entrepreneurship while balancing the beautiful chaos of motherhood. Inside, you'll find daily mindset shifts and tips, encouragement from women on the same journey, and bi weekly free community calls. Whether you are still in the dreaming phase or ready to take action, this group is here to support you every step of the way. And the best part? It's totally free. Just click the link in the show notes below to join. Mama, your dreams are very much possible, and you don't have to do it alone. Let's build your vision together, and I'll see you in the group inside.
Yeah, and that's, I think, where a lot of the people I was talking to really struggle. Not only is it risky, there's no guarantee in the business world, but they had
Right.
never done marketing. They couldn't crunch the numbers to see how this would work out. Just
Mm,
different things. But I think the fundamental thing, like you said, is really just it's two different skill sets, and you have to put yourself out there. And I think that's hard for a
mm-hmm,
lot of people. There's a lot
mm-hmm.
of people that I've met, anyways, that are risk adverse, and
Yes.
you can't be. You can't be when you're an
Yeah.
entrepreneur. And so, yeah, it's always
Mm,
going to be scary. It's always going to be, there's going to be a lot of uncertainty. There's going to be anxiety along the way, but two totally different skill sets for sure. And I mean, I'm talking like PhD mental health providers, amazing, been in the field for 20 years, and they've never
yes.
gone off on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Mhm.
the thought of like, let me get, I literally, like, I've heard so many people, like, let me just get one more thing. And I'm like,
Yes.
it doesn't
Hmm.
matter,
Right.
because at the end of the day, also presentation matters greatly to the viewer, the customer. And so if you're able to put forward a really nice, and you're all things ethically, right? Morally, where you're putting together a great service that's going to help people. At the end of the day, like, are people looking at your letters? Somewhat, yes, but
Mhm.
also like the flow, the structure, the environment, the ambient of this practice or building that you are creating, the organization, the timeliness, how easy is it for me to schedule an appointment? Like all of those things matter so
Mhm.
much more than like, wow, this person has been working in the field for 50 years. Like,
Yes,
cool.
definitely. Definitely.
You know?
And we know, as mental health providers, we know all the licensure and everything. But
Yes.
how many people actually look at that, right? They're going to read your
Or
profile on
understand
Site
that.
Today. Right, exactly.
Yes.
And they're like, she seems like a really nice person. I really like her smile
Mm,
and her picture. Um,
correct.
yeah, and I know that that's a controversial topic to bring up amongst
I'm glad
mental
we're
health
talking about it.
providers.
Yep.
But half of them, yeah, they just see letters, right? They don't know
Hmm.
what it means, what went into that. You said earlier, we have to get 3,000 hours. We have up to 10 years, but
Hmm.
I mean, I'd venture to say that most people outside the mental health world don't even know that, don't even know what your training is. So it's really
Right.
focused on customer care, and, just that's going to sell itself. If
Yeah.
you're a
And
good provider, that
how
sells itself.
yeah, and how well do you solve a problem? That's any business, right? Like how
Right.
well do you solve a problem?
Exactly, exactly, good point. Yeah, definitely. Yep.
So I'm glad we're talking about it because whether you're in the mental health space or not, while you're listening to this, I think, we have so many doubts. And it's the reason why a lot of my coaching for entrepreneurs is mostly mindset because it's the people that want to take the leap of faith, but they can't. And for me, having my background in counseling for 10 years prior, it's like, all right, let's do the inner work, like what's coming up for you, like, and kind of
Right.
navigating that world of like, oh, you
Mhm.
had this happen to you, or this is a wound from your past, or this is the way that your perspective has been tainted or shifted or molded because of X experience. Like, let's break that
Yes.
down and then,
Mhm.
get to because the truth is that for some people, being ballsy and risky is a little bit easier than others.
Right.
Right. And we spoke about the background kind of being a potential factor, like going to school, having a lot of schooling or not. But not just that, it's just personality, right? It's just like who you are as a person. And for those
Mhm.
that truly desire to take the leap of faith, people usually hire me, especially as mothers, because I am mother running a business, and
Yeah.
that be enough. Then,
Mhm. Oh,
they might find out, oh, I also have my master's, just I've also been a therapist, but that was like second nature or
mhm.
second information coming at that point. It
For
was the
sure.
connection piece, like you said, like, oh, here's a woman with babies running a business doing exactly what I'm doing. And it's like, yeah, that's enough.
Right, right. Yeah, definitely, definitely. I feel like I should give a little bit of a promo here. So, have you heard of Therapy Practice Accelerator?
No.
They are a service that is much like an extended incubator. And in the business world, we know that that's when you kind of jump into things and, really crunch the numbers and get your plan in place and get everything up and running. But I would definitely recommend that to any mental health providers who are listening, and a little bit, cautious or fearful of taking that step, because they
Hmm.
have coaches and they have a set path that you take. And you reminded me of this because you said mindset. And one of the
Hmm.
modules is mindset is what it's called. It's all about mindset. And that's
Yes.
so true. So I did join that program too, just to give myself the extra push, and it's been incredible.
Yes.
So there are
Yeah.
resources out there when you start looking that can help you with that journey.
Hmm. Okay, thank you for sharing that. What is the name of that again?
Therapy Practice Accelerator.
Therapy Practice Accelerator. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Thank you for mentioning that because I think, yes, as someone like myself and other individuals and like you too, who have had other schooling, our next logical thought was like, what course can I take? What other training can I take to now open up a
Right.
business? And I did the same
Right.
thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? It was only that when I joined I did multiple business masterminds and still am in them to continue learning.
So,
Um, yeah, that's when I really saw, I was like, wait a second. They're not teaching me. I mean, they were teaching me a lot of tactical things, but a lot
mhm.
of it was on mindset. And
Yes.
so, you begin to venture off in this other kind of world of like, oh, this is how business owners get things done. Oh, this is how the other side of the world, the non nine to fivers, function, and they put more of their focus and energy on self-care and waking up early for some people, or doing all their, self-care practices. Like that is priority
Yes.
over, and then you go forward and do all the business things. You have to get done the one, two,
Right.
threes, but it's like it's a lot of how can I be the best human, at least what I've experienced,
Mhm.
right? How can I be
Yeah.
the best human being, the best version of myself to then further impact whatever. It doesn't matter what you're doing, but like whatever it is that you want to do. And I think I know for me, coming from a very scholastic, I was very type A, like this is data, this is stats. I came from a very clinical background to
Yeah.
looking at young. I was in a mastermind with like a young woman who was, I think, like 19 or 20, still
Oh,
in
wow.
college,
Wow.
running her business online
Wow.
from her college dorm, charging
Mhm.
like 8,000 a head for this program on trauma at that
Oh my
she had
goodness.
created, which it was beautiful. She knew her stuff very well.
Mhm.
No schooling, all personal experience.
I think that just says everything right there, right? They're exactly. Her clients are not looking at what her scholastic background is. They're
Right.
looking to see how much knowledge she has in that area. And so I think that's
Yeah.
incredible for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. One, just to really like ground in that like perspective or point of view, like that coaching call topic that day was about how to higher your prices.
Oh,
And I'm like,
really?
this girl's already at $8,000. I'm like, how much higher can, like
Yeah.
those were my beginner thoughts, like in
Oh, yeah.
business. And it's a whole different world. So I'm really happy that
Mhm.
we're talking about this because it is vastly different. And so I guess my next question for you, Sarah, would be, having taken the leap of faith, juggling becoming a business owner for this practice, alongside getting your accreditations and all that jazz, and still having the passion to also look, I love because you look ahead. It's like, okay, I know in a couple of years I'll be able to get my supervisor, licensure or ability to do that. And so I'm
Mhm.
already working on creating a program that would be supportive in this way. So what is it about, I don't know, maybe the autonomy of being your own business owner? What is it that pulls you? Because it's kind of like addicting. At least it is for
Yes,
me,
it is. Once
right?
you jump into things, it totally is.
Yes,
And that's why
yes,
there's so many serial entrepreneurs, I feel like, because it's like, oh, and then I
yes,
can do this, and then I can do this.
yes, yeah. So yeah, what keeps you in there? I guess more convo on that.
Yeah, so definitely that piece of it, right? I've I came from that creative background. And so I feel like I always have the wheels spinning. And I'm like, I can do this and I can add this and maybe I'll do this in the future. And I have my timelines and different things. But at the core of everything, central to everything, is my family, right? I'm always
Mm,
thinking ahead, like you said,
mhm,
and seeing how I can put everything together to make more time and space for my family. So my kids are always
mm,
at the top, 100%. And if I had to walk away, from everything right now for my kids, whatever that may be that caused that, I would. I
mhm,
would. It's all about making more time for them. And I feel very, very fortunate that I kind of got pushed into doing this when they were young.
mhm.
So I was able to go from being in the office, stuck in the office all day, not getting time off, to going to a lot of their school events and just being really
Beautiful.
involved during those stages. And that was huge for me. And so I would say, first and foremost, definitely just motivated to spend more time with family.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Because you wouldn't think, not that you wouldn't think that that's your motivation, but you wouldn't think that you have time with all the things that you were
Yeah.
doing, right?
Mhm.
And so are your kiddos, how old are they right now? Are they still the 3 and 5 or they're older now?
No, so they're sadly much older.
Oh.
My daughter's in ninth grade, so she just got into high school. I can't
Oh,
even believe it.
okay.
She is 14. My
Mm,
stepson is going to be 14 in February. I guess we have quite I guess a few more months. I don't know why my mind was thinking like it's right around the corner, but so he's 13, and then the younger two are 11, and my son will turn
okay.
12 in January. But two 11-year-olds, a 13-year-old, and a 14-year-old.
Amazing. I love that. I
Yeah,
love that. Okay,
they're
so
busy,
um
busy, busy. We have play and
yes.
travel soccer. So that has been that's been an adjustment, to say the least. We had
Mm-hmm.
one and now we have three. But
Mm.
it's really fun and I just enjoy everything they do. I love being that soccer mom, spectator,
Yes.
stereotypical, just
I love it.
yelling and screaming and probably embarrassing them from the sidelines.
I love that. I love that. I think I'm big
Yeah.
on manifestation and I think it intersects with spirituality. And I remember when I first moved, I moved from New York to Charlotte, North Carolina. And I used to before, so again, another just going for it, not really caring about outside things. I came, I was an adjunct professor. I had like all these really nice
I'm so
accreditations to my resume, all the things.
Mhm.
I had been in, counseling for a couple of years at that point. And when I moved to a new state, I was a babysitter.
Okay. Yeah. Hey,
Yeah,
starting
I
over.
was starting over, right? Only because I knew like it took time for my licensure to move to the next state, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
And it was a fast
Hmm.
move. So, anyway, just that alone. So, the babysitting allowed me to do something different, not in a
Right.
standard, office again, taking care of children. And we moved, and my husband was the one who got his job first. So, I was just like applying and waiting and all the things. And I'm sharing this
Yeah.
story because I used to help the kiddos go to soccer practice and things of that sort. And their
Oh,
parents were super involved. So they were also there at some point. But I was just like getting the in-betweens, like school, pickup and all of
hmm.
that. And because it's a lot.
Yes.
And I remember looking at this beautiful family who actually had separated, actually, and they were so beautifully just co-parenting, so
That's
civil,
amazing.
so
I
much
love
love,
that.
like it was amazing. And I remember looking at the kids and like the soccer field, like it was like late at night, it was like raining, just like your typical like movie
Yeah.
kind of feel. And I
Oh,
was
yeah.
like, I can't wait to do this for my kids one day,
Isn't it
and
crazy how everything happens for a reason?
it's so insane. It's so
Yeah.
insane. And so still love that family like so so much. And I just so this is what he the kid I watched him when there was a boy and a girl, but the boy must have been maybe in like eighth grade when I was babysitting him.
Mhm.
And he just called me as a senior in high
Oh,
school.
oh,
And he's like running his own business. He
oh
was
my
like
goodness.
selling me, yeah, he was like selling me knives and like his voice had dropped. And I'm like, who are you?
Yeah,
You
mine
know?
doesn't sound the same. Oh, there's so
No,
many
not at
changes
all.
in
So
those
many
few years.
changes.
Mhm.
Yes. And so
How
anyway, I'm
cool,
bringing all
though.
this up because I'm picturing your kiddos being kind of like around that age and
Yeah.
sports. I used to be heavily into sports and when I was young
Oh,
too, so
yeah.
I know that takes up a lot of your time. But now
Mhm.
seeing it like that must have been a lot for my mom.
Yeah.
It was a lot
Yeah,
for me, but it must have been so much
definitely.
for my mom.
It gives you such a newfound appreciation for your parents and all the juggling you
Yes.
did, for
And all the
sure.
juggling.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Took
And
that for
so
granted back in the day for sure. I did.
yeah, it was, it's all about us. It's me. It's
Yes.
like I have to
Yeah.
go to school and I'm an athlete and it was like
Right.
it's fine. That's exactly where we should be at that time, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
Um, but I mentioned all that because I'm like, what were we talking about? My brain does this and I just go absolutely left. What was the prior conversation? We were talking
So we were
about
talking about, and mine does the same thing, so it's gonna take me a second. But that comes with being a business owner too, I think, right? Like,
yes,
it just goes in a
so
million
many
different directions,
tabs.
all these tabs. Yeah, exactly. Um, but, I think we were talking about making more time for family,
Oh, yes,
and
thank
yeah,
you. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, so it was
and
the whole depiction of like you wouldn't think that because you have so many passion projects and things that you're actually doing,
mhm,
and you're maintaining 4 kiddos in sports, all the things, like you wouldn't
mhm,
think that you have more time. So I love that your groundedness and centerpiece is, well, it's my family. It's making sure that
mhm.
my family is well taken care of and that should I have to drop anything for them, I can.
Yes, yes, 100%. I feel so fortunate to be in that spot right now. Obviously, it would be a little bit difficult if I just left everything behind, but I would, and I know that I can if I need to. I will say that things have been really busy this year. Um, but at the same time, I'm able to shift my work around so that
Mm.
I'm able to go to their games to pick them up from their after school activities and things. And I also know that this is only temporary. The
Yeah.
goal is to continue to reduce the work eventually.
Yes. Yes. Delegate
And
more, I'm sure.
yes,
Yes.
right, right.
Yeah.
Branch out, delegate more, and kind of step away. And
Yes.
I know that that's coming at some point. It might take a
Yeah.
couple of years to get there, but because it's temporary, that helps me too. That continues to
Yeah.
make me motivated to get there. And
Yeah.
of course, me and my mind, going 20 years down the road, but I want to be the grandma that, if my kids have children, is
Oh,
there
I
for
love
the
this.
grandchildren too. And, just maintain
Yeah.
those relationships with my kids when they're adults. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Thank you so much for saying that. So, oh my God, I feel like we have to connect even after the show.
I
So,
agree.
yeah, so wow, my mind just went in so many different places. So I love the grandma perspective because you are thinking ahead and it's true to who you are. So I love that.
Yes.
And the other day, me and my husband were talking about, so backtrack. Let me talk about the temporary mindset first. This is temporary. Almost all things are temporary,
Yes.
right? And I think
Mhm.
I interlace a lot when it comes to teaching mamas how to be business owners with the development of becoming a mother and being a mother and how certain
Mhm.
stages are simply that, just temporary. And so you
Yes.
kind of have to view business in that way too, right? Like there's going to be a time where you're working really, really hard and then it gets easier, right?
Right.
And so on
Mhm.
and so forth. Like the newborn stage, like you're not sleeping, and then one day you do, and you're like, wow, you know,
I
you're
remember making a pot of coffee. That was like before the Keurig, and like just heating it back up in the microwave for like 3 days straight. Like this, I would
oh,
just make like a huge
yes,
batch of coffee
yes,
because I was like
yes,
too tired to make new coffee or something. I don't even know, but
yeah,
I just remember it being like fight or flight survival mode for the first few months.
yes, yeah, you're like barely, yeah, you're just there. You're like a zombie walking. I remember it was,
Autopilot.
yes, with my firstborn son, I had I don't know what the name for this is, but I was well, I guess delirious. Like I was literally delirious. Like I had been lacking sleep.
Oh,
I remember me and my husband were running to Target for God knows what. But he sent me a text. It's just like clear as day. He sent me a text, something about like blue this, red this, and my brain, because I was so sleep deprived,
yeah.
went in like I pictured cartoons for the grocery list, and I was like, something's wrong. I was like,
That's not even surprising, like for a new mom.
I was like, something's wrong. But
It's so
me, like
funny.
also knowing like a lot about the mental health space and like, you know, what to look
Yeah,
at. It's like a
right.
plus and a
Like, "Oh,
negative.
is this
Yes. And I was
warning
like,
sign?"
yes, I was like, I
Mhm.
think I'm losing it. I was like, what's going on? And then
Yes. Oh.
anyway, so all of that, you know, that phase was also temporary.
Mhm.
Like it was really
Right.
hard. Postpartum was really, really hard. A lot of things go, I'm sure going from one kid to three kids in travel soccer is really hard.
Yes.
You,
Mhm. Right,
you
right, but
know?
all temporary, like you said. Exactly.
Yes, yes. And so what I'm trying to say with all of this is that I love that you're already able to plan and be playful in the way that you see yourself being interacted with your family, even as a grandmother,
Yeah.
right? I think that sometimes a lot of people, myself included, will think it's too late to do
Mhm.
something.
Yeah.
And like recently, me and my husband, again, another temporary change. I now work, as you see, we're recording at 7, we began at 7 a.m. I work from 6 to 10, Tuesday through Fridays now. That's something completely new for me. And
Mhm.
literally only because I have a 2 and a 3-year-old, they're, you know, needing me right now. There's a lot of things happening with childcare. And so I said, F it.
Mhm.
You know, it was the first time, this is 5 years in now, that I was able to recognize that I've built a business now. I've done multiple different legs within my business, different programs, different ventures, and I'm like, I can take a pause and nothing bad will happen.
Right, right.
That
Isn't
under
it nice to kinda get out of that a little bit? It doesn't seem
Yeah,
real sometimes at first. I feel like for
no,
me, I'm like, "Can I really be doing this right now?" I guess because we crank everything out, right? And it's like, "Go, go, 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 go," and then all of a sudden it's like, "Oh, I do have this time." And it's nice, but, it
yes.
almost seems unreal at first.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of trust and faith that goes
Mhm.
into that, right? And it was like I kept hearing the message like from, you know, when I meditate or when I just had time to myself of like you can just pick this up later and just like don't worry about it. Just like
Yeah.
continue to run the business. It'll be from 6 to 10 and we'll just see how it goes. And I've been sharing
Mhm.
a lot in like my email newsletter and my Instagram feed of how choosing my family actually brought me more aligned clients at higher price points at
Oh,
that,
oh. Yeah, yeah,
right?
everything happens for a reason. It
Everything
does.
happens for a reason, and like that's a really like happy, not ending because we're still doing it, but like it's really good affirmation. And I also know that as a business owner that doesn't always happen. You try something new, it doesn't always work
Mhm.
out, but this time it
Right.
did,
Mhm.
right? And it just is what it is. And I 5 years of trusting, putting myself out there, taking the leap of it, it's just like, you know what, when this phase ends, when my kiddos are in school, I'll be able to dedicate even more time to the business. But you know what? I'm really grateful for that right now. It gets to be 6 to 10, Tuesday through Friday,
Yes.
and then I have the rest of the day with my kiddos.
That's incredible, that's amazing. And I think you brought up a good point too is, you did do all of that work to get to this space. So you did hustle and it's earned, it's like well earned, right? So you can kind of hang your hat on that and just really enjoy that family time right now. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, all right, girly. I want to talk to you forever. I wish we had an extended
I
period of time,
know, me
but
too.
I
Can we
want
do it a to
I'm
be continued?
Yes, I would love to. Um, for this portion of the of our episode, we'd love to dive into something more, not more, but vulnerable in terms of anything that you're struggling with at this time that you would just either want to air out, or maybe I can help give perspective. It could be personal, relationship, business, anything. Something that I think with everyone that I interview, but especially as someone like you, you're doing so many amazing things. It's really good to hear also like how else are you human and what else are you going through at this time?
Right, right. I love that. Because we are all human. And,
Hmm.
there's the portion of us that the rest of the world sees, and there's a portion of us
Yes.
that we know at an intimate level. And I feel like there's a couple of different things. I feel like my family has been super supportive of me. They're incredible. They're amazing. I have two of my kids are very much like have that entrepreneurial mindset and want to kind of pursue that now too. And they've been doing really cool things. My daughter did an online bakery, and my son is like cranking it out on YouTube. And I got a notification. He got 60,000 views on one of his channels. He's 11 years
Oh
old.
my
So
God.
super cool.
Amazing.
Super cool. And so I really think they're also kind of eating that up too, and just they're asking me a lot of questions. It's just more so,
Mm.
I think mindset goes back to mindset and trying to get there myself. I feel like I can always be doing more for my family. I can be present more. I'm not doing enough for them. And so that is something I struggle with. And I completely know that my limitations are mostly self inflicted. But
Mm.
even as a mental health provider, I can help my clients all day. And
Yeah.
then I step back and I feel like, imposter syndrome or being a
Mm-hmm.
hypocrite because I'm struggling with kind of getting my own mindset in the right place. And also too, I always feel like I'm just kind of hard on myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's super
Mm-hmm.
cool that my kids have that mindset now, but I'm like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not pushing them in a certain direction, am I? I want them to be themselves. I want them to be do something that makes
Mm.
them happy. They're not doing this because it makes me happy, right? Like I struggle with these thoughts all the time, and I just
Mm.
feel like we're our own worst critics. And
Mm-hmm.
no matter how much feedback I get from my family, I just feel like, do they really feel that way? I don't know. Why
Mm.
why
Okay,
can't I get
so
to that space? Mhm.
yeah, so to be clear, your kiddos and family are telling you like, no, mommy, I want to do this. This makes me happy, but you're not able to fully like accept that. Something within you is
Yeah.
like, are they really?
Yes. Yes. Am I pushing them to say and do these things,
Mm.
which I never wanna do? I want my kids to pursue whatever it is that makes them happy at any time
Mm-hmm.
at life, whatever that is. And so I just struggle with getting there myself, being supportive of myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Why is it fair to say that this is like is it do you believe it's complete perception? Like your kiddos rationally are indeed happy doing this YouTube channel. They are following their current interests at this time, not being negatively influenced by you, which just like of course not, but I get the mind, right? And so do you think it's all perception and this is something internal that you're working through at this time?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And I believe that I really believe in that psychodynamic work, and for, people that may not know what that is, but it's really like kind of digging deep and seeing how patterns have repeated themselves over the lifetime. And I feel
Mhm.
like a lot of it is just my own experiences too.
I was gonna ask, yep. I was like,
So
where's this fear coming from? Yeah.
yeah, that's exactly what it is. And I'm not saying that like I got pushed into doing anything because that was 100% not
Mm-hmm.
the case. My parents were always supportive of everything and took me to everything I wanted to go to, um,
Okay.
even if they didn't understand it. But two, I just feel like my experiences, even if we're talking about in my 20s and 30s, may have shaped and kind of molded this situation. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, so I do think it's all perception. I really do. My daughter has liked to cook and bake since she was 9 years old. Um, and my son has always loved his video games and YouTube and all of that. I think that's pretty popular in general. um,
Yes.
so I just want to make sure that I'm allowing them to be themselves, their own
Yeah.
person. And yeah, I think that I need to get kind of past my own vulnerabilities as far as that goes, and uncertainties and self criticism and all of that. I've always been very
Yeah.
hard on myself, and I do sometimes think too, like that type A personality and always trying to achieve and do better and be better. Um, Also, kind of brings to light a question of, am I okay with who I am right now?
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, would I
Yeah.
really be doing all of this if I was 100% okay with myself the way right here, right now,
Wow.
you
Thank
know?
you for saying
So,
that.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and that's
Oh
what I
my
struggle with.
God.
Mhm.
There are just so many levels. Thank you for your authenticity. I too have those thoughts of like, why am I going so hard?
Yes, right?
You
It brings
know?
up Maslow for me. It's like we get up to like we're trying to reach self-actualization rather than just
Yes.
trying to be present in the moment and like really connecting
Yes.
with who we are right now and being okay with that. Not only connecting with it, but just being okay. Even if we
Yeah.
haven't done exactly what we want to do, even if life hasn't treated us well in certain ways. And I struggle with that, continually every day.
Yeah. It's wow, girl, we need a part two. I'm already calling it in. We need a part two because there's so
Yay.
much more to talk about.
I know it
Um,
too. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So for now, we will close it here. Listeners, we will schedule a part two because it's very much
Yay.
needed. There's just so much good, it's good storytelling, to be quite frank. Like, it's an engaging story that you have, and I think we are just bringing up so many important things that it's not always commonly spoken about. And I think it's been so good to talk about those things. So definitely a part
Yeah.
two coming.
Sounds
For
good.
now, yeah, we will close and I'll say, or I'll ask, how can people find you should they want to work with you?
So they can check out my website, 3cscounselingcenter.com. Michigan Counselor Institute.com's website is michigancounselingcenter.com. And actually on that website, there's links to all my other sites. So if
Okay.
as long as you remember those
Get
two,
the main
that's how you
one.
can reach
Yes. And it's in
me.
the show notes. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay, beautiful. Well, thank you, Sarah, so, so much. A great way to start my morning. I hope this was great
mine
for our
too.
listeners. I know it is. And yes, we will have you back on the show shortly. Thank you for joining me today on Mindset Mastery Podcast. I hope today's conversation inspired you to embrace your own journey of balancing motherhood and entrepreneurship. Remember, it's all about mastering your mindset to create a life of success and fulfillment in both areas. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave a review. Your support helps us reach more incredible moms just like you. Until next time, keep showing up, keep growing, and mastering your mindset.